of you, outside of family, have a group of people that you can hang out with, such as neighbors, co-workers, maybe friends of your kids? How many of you here have someone outside of your family or friends on a regular basis that you can hang out with?
Does it have to be in person or could it be online?
In person, actually. That would be a big part of that. Okay, so what if you don't have that? What if you don't have kids? What if you don't click with your neighbors or your coworkers? And for those of you who did raise your hands that say you do have this type of group of friends, what if they don't share the same values as you do? And I used to be in that same position. Going to church was the community I was a part of, but it really didn't belong to. I felt like I was outside of my own group and like I had to conform to fit in. And I couldn't be my authentic self. And it really sucks when you can't be your authentic self. 7 years ago, my husband and I were still hanging around the church even though we no longer held any religious beliefs. We did this because this is where all of our friends were. We thought that if we stopped attending, that our friend group would pretty much unravel. We had seen people leave the church and they dropped off the map. Because when you're doing church, you're doing a lot of life together. But who wants to conform or pretend to fit in just to be a part of a community? A lot of people who attend Kansas City Oasis have shared that they have felt the same way. Have any of you felt that way? Like you have to fit in to maybe fit into a social group? Maybe it's a few. Well, this afternoon, I'm going to talk with you about why community is crucial and why providing an oasis is absolutely invaluable. So we're going to start with the paper that you received. Sorry, this whole this is not how I do. I'm a walker, so. If you'll take that piece of paper, you are going to draw a line, turn it sideways, horizontal, write a line across the top, write challenges on the top left, and you're going to list 2 to 3 challenges to secular community. You have 1 minute. Keep it brief, and I will have a few of you share. All right, I need 3 people to share. Is there one person that wants to share one of their reasons? Yes?
Infighting.
Infighting. Very good. What else? Yes?
Fox News.
Fox News. Awesome. Yes?
Money.
What did you say?
Money.
Money. All right, that's all really great. So now that we've addressed a few of the challenges to community, I want to share with you why community is crucial. First, it's in our DNA. Homo sapiens have been around about 200,000 years. We didn't start forming settlements until about 5,000 years ago, which also means it took Jesus 198,000 years to finally show up, say hi, tell us he really screwed up, and then of course redeem us all. So thank you, Jesus. So during this huge chunk of time that we 195,000 years, we were tribal, we were in groups of about 100 and 150 people. So living in tribes affected how we interacted with one another. It means we pooled resources, we pooled skills, personalities. We rarely ever met another person from another tribe, and if you did, it was probably really bad news because they were going to take your resources and probably end your life. Our tribal side is also seen in a lot of our favorite TV shows. Shows like The Brady Bunch, Seinfeld, Friends. Who knows what's the slogan from Friends, or the main one? I'll be there for you, right? How I Met Your Mother, a more recent one. And of course, Cheers. All right, who knows the main line from Cheers?
Where everybody knows your name.
Where everyone knows your name and is glad you came, something like that. Yeah. So we also see that community in current research that it supports our physical and mental health. So now that I'm a bit older, going to the doctor includes them asking me whether I smoke, if I drink too much, eat too much, and whether I exercise. But does your doctor ever ask you, do you have many friends? Do you socialize often? What groups do you belong to? How diverse are they? And how important are these groups to you? No, they never ask that. But they should, because current research has proven that having good friendships is just as vital to your health as not smoking, as not drinking too much, as exercising and not eating too much. Just as important. Which means that if you are at your favorite secular conference or at your future Oasis, you can eat, drink, and be merry all you want because it's good for your health. So, good news. It's also reported that having great social support and connections increases longevity. In 2010, researchers at Brigham Young University published a study that revealed some really startling conclusions. People who enjoyed strong social ties were 50% more likely to still be living 7.5 years later compared with people with weak or no social ties. Another study looked at 188 people over the age of 100, and they saw that having a close family and friend network was highly significant in their lifespan. It seems that at the heart of all things, being connected enhances life. Sharing community is also vital to our mental health. Martin Seligman and Ed Dinier, which are both leading positive psychologists, cite studies demonstrating that of 24 character strengths, those that best predict life satisfaction happen to be the interpersonal ones. Another study looked at cultures and tried to identify the factors that were prevalent in the people who reported a high level of well-being. And that factor that was consistent across all the cultures, and this is obviously first world cultures, but the factors that were consistent among those who reported having a high level of well-being and life satisfaction were the ones who had really, really great social support systems. And that doesn't just mean families, that means really great friendships and connections with the people in their communities. Did you know that if you have 5 or more friends with whom to discuss an important matter to, you're far more likely to describe yourself as happy? And so how many people can you go to when, life starts to throw lemons at you? And unfortunately, life always tends to throw lemons eventually, no matter how hard we try. So who can you go to get support or a lending ear? And this is true for extroverts, and it's true for introverts. It's really important to look at the needed community as on a spectrum. So we all obviously have different frequency needs when it comes to being in connection with other people. So even though if you're an introvert, it doesn't mean that you don't need community at all. For introverts, you may not need community, but I guarantee you that the communities need you. Researchers are finding that being a part of a social support system may serve as a standalone strategy for those who cannot afford standard therapy or there's not enough mental health professionals. These studies note that you can't just attend any group. You have to feel like you belong to that group. The more someone identified with that group, the more likely they were to have less symptoms of depression. And this sense of connection to a group rather than just contact with an individual is what protects our mental health. So you can't just go to yoga class and be in proximity to people. You have to really feel like you belong or are accepted, something much deeper than proximity. A recent article in Scientific American Mind shared that researchers have found that just thinking about your social groups makes you less likely to get sick after being exposed to a virus, less apt to lash out after someone has wronged you, and even better, more tolerant of physical pain. That's just by thinking about your social groups. Groups provide a profound sense of belonging, and they also give meaning in part because we are better able to achieve goals when we're working together. When we feel like we belong to a group, we can supply both emotional and practical assistance in times of need. So I want to ask you this: where in our culture can we establish such strong social connections with ease and on a regular basis? Those two factors are really important, with ease and on a regular basis. The only place is church or your religious institution, whatever that may be. Sure, you can make friends at your kid's soccer game, at your local monthly free thought meetup. You can make friends there too, or on OkCupid. I know some of you love OkCupid in here. But they're just not the same kind of relationships that you tend to develop in a religious community. So if we are being honest, we can acknowledge that religion has provided a very valuable resource of social support for countless people. In communities across America, churches and synagogues and mosques have played a crucial role in strengthening the social fabric by feeding the hungry, befriending the lonely, comforting the troubled, and even providing job prospects and business opportunities. So, while also selling his prayer claws and burnt toast with Jesus' face on it and anointing oil, but we won't talk about that. That we won't be selling any of that. But the really cool thing, and I'm sure many of you have heard this, the cultural tide is turning. Non-believers, sometimes referred to as the nuns, now not these nuns, I mean these nuns, we are the fastest growing demographic in the nation. It is reported, at the least, it's around 20%. 30% of millennials are identifying as this NONES. And I read an article last week, but I don't know the full validity of it, but they said it might be around 40%. And you know what? I would venture to say that it's highly likely that that 40% is maybe possible, because there are so many people still sitting in their church pew because that's their community. Those are the people that they love, and they don't want to lose it. And they have nowhere else to go. This shows the graph of the sharp decline that we're seeing. And of course, this only goes to 2013. But we're on a good steep decline, which I'm sure many of us brings joy to our hearts. So why did I keep hanging around the church? Because when we're new to a new city and you want to make friends, connect with people, where do you go? You go to church. So, and if you're married or you're partnered, it gets really old fast to just be staring at your significant other every night. So you want to make friends. We started going to a vineyard church, and they had small groups. Small groups are basically like the new version of Sunday schools, where they meet in someone's home. You kind of have usually something in common, and you do studies or kind of whatever you want and hang out and do life. Well, they happened to have offered a young married, no kids small group, and so we said, what the hell? Let's check it out. And you know what? We fell in love with those people. We actually stopped going to Sunday services, which we never really liked going to anyways, and just started going to our weekly small group. And what's really cool is that those people, we're lucky, they're still our friends. I'm sure we're their token atheist friends, but they still accept us, and we all have kids now. Eventually, when we told our friends that we were atheists, they shrugged it off as if they already knew. They claimed we were just liberal. But I joined the Kansas City Atheist Coalition's board with one goal in mind, and it was to solve the secular community's problem with community. So this brings me to Oasis. For those of you who are not familiar with Oasis, we are secular communities in Kansas City, Houston, and in March 2015, we are really excited to launch Dallas-Fort Worth Oasis. And we have 5 other cities right now that are in the works as well. And if any of you are interested, we're happy to talk with you. Less than 2 months ago, Time magazine featured Oasis and wrote that Oasis is the community model for non-believers nationwide. Time also recognized how secular communities can meet the needs that churches used to. Listen to that again. Time magazine recognized that secular communities can meet the needs that religious institutions used to. That should be a call to arms for all of us. It's thrilling to see a well-respected international news source recognize this. And I think it further confirms that the next logical step in secularism is exactly what we're doing. This brings me to my next point, which is providing an oasis is invaluable. At Oasis, we are trying to build a human community where it is okay to be who you are. You can relax. There's no God to impress. There's no religious authority to impress. You can just be. Our community strives to be an oasis of reason in a world that is often so unreasonable and driven by dogmas and ideologies. Oasis strives to be a place of acceptance. That means We don't care what your label is. You can be, gay, trans, bi, carnivore, vegetarian, atheist, agnostic, free thinker, whatever. We don't care, and you don't have to pretend. I love the image of an oasis because it's a place of refreshment, a place to recharge your batteries, not a place of escape. An oasis is a place to get resupplied, rewatered, and rested for that next stage in your journey, and that's why we chose the name. So, what is the Oasis model? First, it means we give weekly opportunity for people to connect with one another. Imagine going on a first date and then setting your next date to be a month out. You think that relationship's going to do very well? Imagine spending only one day a month with your kid. You think they're going to feel close to you? No. And likewise, if we only create a monthly opportunity to meet and you miss a month, that's a 60-day gap between seeing that person. You're not going to build relationships like that. You have to offer some form of frequency to really get people to connect. It's crucial. The fact that so many religions have the practice of meeting weekly suggests that something about this weekly model means that it simply works. In reality, most members of any organization do not have perfect attendance. Oasis has opted for the weekly model, not because we're trying to imitate church, but because it works. We also have our gatherings or programs on Sunday, not because we think Sunday is sacred, but because most people happen to be available on Sunday, and it's the best time to gather a critical mass. Every Sunday, we offer a gathering, not a service. It's something like a cross between a TED Talk and a house concert. At Oasis, we bring in local and regional musical talent. This means that the options are endless when it comes to the kind of music that can come in. So we've had everything from a banjo player to a classical guitarist to a Portuguese guitarist with like 12 strings, full jazz bands with a full bass and violin. And I think Houston's done even better when it comes to the type of music they have there. They have more options. But the options are endless. It's much more exciting than singing hymnals or all standing up and singing Beatles songs together. We also offer the chance for people to get together and discuss real-world principles based on evidence and free thought, not scripture or revelation. We don't light candles, we don't have secular benedictions, no woo factor at all. Furthermore, we provide a place where your children can explore their developing worldviews, ask questions, and make friends, an environment that is supportive of critical thinking. One of the most important reasons for organizing a community like Oasis is children and families. Whether we like it or not, churches are pursuing our children. When my son's classmates talk about going to church and how much fun it is, my son wants to go and doesn't understand why we don't. So let's face it, churches do a lot of fun things. I remember doing ski trips and lock-ins, game nights, parties. When I was growing up, these were the highlights of my youth. The church wants you to believe that the supernatural stuff is what helps people. But the social benefits of belonging to a community is the real magic. A magic we can no longer let the church have a monopoly over. At Oasis, we just don't offer Sunday gatherings. We create volunteer and social opportunities throughout the month. And this is where real connection happens, when we experience life together. It's one reason why I invited a lot of my Oasis community to Apostacon, because this is where you can actually really hang out with people and get to know them. And some of you are here, thank you. Since we are not here to do church, we are also not here to not do church. This is something that makes us unique at Oasis. We are not there to constantly reaffirm our lack of belief. Richard Dawkins once described it as, we all us non-stamp collectors don't get together to talk about how we don't collect stamps. Likewise, in the same way, we don't get together to talk about how we just don't do religion. We've left it behind, so why do we keep beating the dead horse? For example, we bring in speakers to Oasis that cover topics that churches usually don't cover. So for example, at Kansas City Oasis, we've had an Egyptologist talk about King Tut. We've had a mom talk about raising her transgender child. We've also had Daryl Ray come in and talk about sex. This doesn't mean that we don't occasionally critique religion, but our goal is to create dialogue and conversation, not to tell you what to believe or what to think. Religious communities have provided tangible benefits to their members that are typically not found in other arenas of life. And there's no reason why Oasis can't provide those things and those advantages to their members. Churches, synagogues, and mosques are frequently places for networking and with others on a variety of life issues, from business contacts to job opportunities. The age diversity of a religious community is also a bonus in this regard, with the membership spanning from infancy to the elderly. Apart from church, most people do not belong to other groups with such mixtures of age and life backgrounds. We don't. It's not natural, other than in religious communities or at your Oasis. Frequently, the older members impart life wisdom through just informal mentoring. A young adult member of Oasis expressed this in a talk she gave at one of the weekly gatherings. She said, "Since coming out as atheist, I've missed the intergenerational interaction that was really prevalent in the Catholic community. However, Houston Oasis has taken that role church used to have because now I have models for families and successful adults who live without religion." And she added, Carl Sagan is great and all, but he's not going to find me a babysitter. And I think she has a really good point. There is far more to humanist life than debunking religion and promoting science. After the theological pennings of religion are dismantled, what's next? Real human needs remain. Needs that are most often met within the context of community life. So where do I find a babysitter who's not going to pray to my child at night at bedtime? Who's going to drive me to my medical visit when I can't drive myself? And where are people going to share a holiday meal when everyone lives far away? These are just a few of the practical concerns that communities like Oasis can easily address. At Oasis, we are guided by core values which define our communities. They shape our interactions with one another, society, and the world at large. The first one, people are more important than beliefs. We list this first, totally on purpose, because this is the defining factor that makes us, one, it'll make us very successful as a community, and also, it's just important. I would venture to say that whether it's an Oasis or any other organization that adopts that people are more important than beliefs, that we can form better, stronger, more live communities than anything in history. Because when people are more important than beliefs, when you're not policing someone's thought or telling someone to believe, people can be their authentic self. And when you're free to be your truly authentic self, you can establish real relationships with other people, get real support, and really connect with one another. The second value, reality, is known through reason, not scripture or revelation. Meaning comes from making a difference. And what's really great about this is that as people, we're very diverse in the things that we're passionate about and want to do. We all find different ways to make a difference, but this is one of the ways we can find our meaning in life. Human hands solve human problems. It's you and I, not some guy in the sky, making things happen and making the world a better place. The last one, simply put, be accepting and be accepted. All right, so we are going to revisit that paper that you had. You had the other column there. So you're going to write on the other side, benefits, and list 2 to 3 ways you might benefit from being a part of a secular community. No pressure or anything, not like I just didn't give you a bunch of reasons, but this is your test, right? No, I want you to be genuine, and if you can't think of anything, that's fine too, I totally understand. It's not for everyone. All right. I need some people to share. Who would like to share what they wrote down? Yes.
You're saying a social outlet. If you don't have friends at work, we talk about work stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So let's have a separate group of friends or these people, we talk about other things.
Exactly. Having a social outlet. Who else? Yes.
Having support.
Having support. Yes. Who else? Yes.
Well, I've got a bunch of stuff, but learning, I'm very interested in learning
Mm-hmm.
from people who are like-minded, but also to set examples for other people, so that you can see that you can be a good organization without having to have a crossing.
Exactly. Better for the movement as a whole then, is that what I hear you saying? So learning, and then not just on an individual modeling basis, but on an organization basis, that as those who don't hold any type of religious beliefs, that we're good people too. Yeah. Anyone else? Mentoring, yes. One more.
Better equipped to help others.
Better equipped to help others in your community. Those are all fantastic. Thanks, guys. So this brings me to my last point, which is simply put, what are you waiting for? We've seen the community is crucial to your well-being, a predictor of life satisfaction, a natural outgrowth of human evolution, and often a missing piece in a secular person's life. So what are we waiting for? Why are we not doing this already on a grand scale? Well, I'm going to share with you some of the common objections I often hear. Objection number 1. It looks too much like church, and I don't do church. The most common objection to what we are doing is if it looks like church and smells like church, then it must be church. So many of us have a history in the church and a disdain for anything that even remotely looks like church. And trust me, I get the sentiment, but it's also kind of like saying I don't read books because they're shaped like Bibles and they use the alphabet. Oasis is neither a church nor an atheist church. The media really enjoys calling us an atheist church. And the reason why I want to address this is important, because yes, we have atheists who come to Oasis. I am an atheist, so I identify as one. However, if you see this here, so I know this number may be changing, so about 2% is the lowest percentage that we know of right now. Might be as high as 6% that identify as atheist. So that still leaves at least 70%, if not more, of people who do not identify as atheists in this nones category, the religiously unaffiliated. So we want to be a place where labels are unimportant. Therefore, you can be an atheist, you can be an agnostic, you can be a secular humanist, a freethinker, whatever. You can even be questioning or progressive Christian. You are welcome at Oasis. Also, we are not a church. The church means that you have dogma and ideologies, which we do not. And the one part that I hate the most about church is that they exclude people because you don't believe the right things. And Oasis is nothing of the sort. Objection number 2. Isn't Sunday Assembly and the Unitarian Universalist Church already addressing this problem? Sunday Assembly and Houston Oasis actually started around the same time. Houston Oasis launched in September of 2012 with Mike Ouse, which is the man you see on the Time picture. He's also were co-founders of the Oasis Network. And Sunday Assembly and Houston Oasis broke new ground in organizing secular families and people. And we have much affinity for them. But our vision for achieving community is just simply different. Sunday Assembly meets once a month, whereas we meet weekly. We consider our primary goal of Oasis is to build excellent secular community. And we feel that with greater frequency, we'll better be able to achieve that goal. We also want the freedom to decide our own format and programming. This gives us the freedom to let each local community Oasis, shape their own community instead of Oasis shaping that community. And although we have a lot in common with the Unitarian Universalists, we will lack in the spiritualism and supernaturalism that you tend to see. And I know there's a lot of variants of the Unitarian Universalists, we'll also call you. There's a lot of variants among the kinds and a new growing thing, and why I don't know is that they're becoming more and more Christian. But We love their inclusiveness. We think that is fantastic, and we share that and we'll have that in common with them, but we are not looking to offer another outlet for spiritual expression. We believe critical thinking, freedom of inquiry, and the scientific method are the best paths for truth. Objection number 3. I've been getting along fine without this so far, so I don't need it. Well, maybe you're an introvert, or maybe you think you've been doing fine so far without community like this. Even if you don't need community, the community needs you. We just don't get a lot out of community. We get to invest in the lives of others. So maybe you're thinking to yourself, this is great and all, but how do I go about starting a community like this? Well, if you want to be a part of an organization that Time magazine recognizes as the model for secular community, then we invite you to simply talk to myself, or I can even have you talk with Mike Ouse in Houston. We both created the Oasis Network, which is a new affiliation and a support organization we have started to help other cities experience the benefits and the power of secular community. Together, we can end the I'm the only atheist or agnostic in the community. We can create a place for free thought that includes families, a place for secular people to build relationships, and we can positively impact our community, just like you guys had mentioned. Let's shed the idea that we non-religious are like cats, that we're too independent to be a part of something really great. The fact is that we're all people with a lot of passion for helping other people and helping our world at large. Imagine being connected to people like you. Imagine being accepted for who you are, where you are. Imagine getting to learn new things, meet new people, and belonging. You can stop imagining because it's here. Oasis is here. They call us the nuns because we don't fit in faith-based communities, but we are not none. We are many, and we deserve to be counted. So create an oasis or join an oasis in your community. We can help.